With the trailer for New Mutants having recently dropped, it seems that the X-Men's first spin-off team is finally getting their first major adaptation. But this isn't the first time that an attempt has been made in order to adapt the New Mutants. And with the recent release of The Gifted dealing with 2 high school-aged mutants having to deal with their new abilities, it seems like the right time to talk about the show that the New Mutants were first adapted into, X-Men Evolution. At 52 episodes, it was Marvel's third longest running animated series until the creation of their animated universe in 2010. And today we're going to focus on the 5 episodes that best represent it. Hey, I'm Tim, and this is Hybrid Top 5. Number 5. Mindbender. After having a truly bizarre nightmare, Jean Grey winds up going missing the following morning. The X-Men soon discover that she's traveling around the country looking for something, and have to figure out what she's looking for and why she's acting like this. This is the episode that kicked off the arc that would eventually finish off the series, and because of this will always have an important place in the show's run. This episode is very unsettling and has a creepy atmosphere throughout it, leading to one of the most intense showdowns in the show's run. Though one of the major downsides to this episode is that, due to its premise, half of our main cast have their agency in this episode removed with no outward sign of resistance. And while it certainly makes the villain seem more threatening, it doesn't really give our heroes the greatest outing. Nor is it really explained why the villain didn't use his powers on the remaining members of the X-Men as well to prevent them from chasing after him. But these are just minor nitpicks in the grand scheme of things and don't undercut how chilling an episode Mindbender is. Number 4. Dark Horizon. The finale to Season 3, when Rogue begins acting strangely, going around to her own team, the Brotherhood and the Acolytes, and stealing their powers, yet having all of her victims wake up without any memory of the event happening, she's eventually found out and confronted by Magneto, only for it to be revealed that a much greater plot is happening behind her. This is the big episode that led into the final season of the show, and finally gave us our full reveal of our main villain of the series. This is also the first time we get to see Xavier's students, Mystique's Brotherhood, and Magneto's Acolytes all working together, even if a few of their members are acting on the opposite side of the conflict. This is probably the most efficient use of Rogue's power throughout the entire course of the series, as she basically walked through the entirety of the rest of the cast. Also, seeing Mystique, who's been a master manipulator throughout the course of the series, get played as badly as she does by our new main villain, really cements the episode's staying power, as well as the major bang that the episode ends up on. Though the downside to this episode is that despite being a 2-parter, it doesn't really feel like a lot actually happened. Most of the plot is relegated to the second half, while the entire first part is basically just Rogue going around absorbing people's powers. But what does actually happen does have enough impact to be one of the best episodes of the series. Number 3. Blind Alley. After escaping from Area 51, Mystique sets out to get revenge against the man who left her there, Cyclops. Using her power, she lures him to Mexico, only to knock him out and take away his glasses. She then abandons him in the middle of nowhere, with no way to see where he's going without fear of destroying everything around him. Mystique continues to torment Cyclops as he tries desperately to find anyone who can help him, and it seems that Jean might be his only salvation. This episode does a great job of demonstrating how awful it would be to actually have Cyclops' powers. He spends the entire episode with the constant fear that anytime he opens his eyes, he'll just kill anyone who happens to be in that direction. And because of this, you really feel for Scott throughout the entirety of this episode and want to see him pull through. This episode also shows just how ruthless Mystique can be. Before this point, she always had some greater scope plan behind all of her actions. But here she just solely wants revenge against Cyclops, and she does it in the most brutal way she possibly could on a kids show. And while the stuff between Scott and Jean in this episode can be somewhat hokey, especially with the resolution of this episode, it does lead to a pretty epic confrontation when Jean finally does catch up to them. And it just goes to show you that even if Scott can't, you should definitely look in this episode's direction. Number 2. Operation Rebirth. Nick Fury contacts Logan in order to tell him that Project Rebirth, that was used during World War II to create Captain America, has been stolen by Magneto. Knowing the danger the project could cause in the wrong hands, and also due to his own history with Captain America, Logan goes to track down Magneto to figure out what he wants the project for. One thing that X-Men Evolution did that really no other X-Men series has really done is that Logan wasn't really a main character, he was a major supporting character. So when they actually did have episodes dedicated to Wolverine, they had a lot more impact. And here, not only do we get the backstory of Wolverine from World War II, we also get it for Magneto, where we get a lot more depth to his character than the series usually showed. Also, despite Captain America only showing up in flashbacks and really not saying anything, the show does a good job of showing just what kind of person Cap was. And when it is finally revealed why Logan is so against Project Rebirth and why Magneto wants it, it's a good 1-2 punch of a conclusion. It's just a good one-off episode to revitalize your interest in the series. Number 1. Day of Reckoning. While tracking down Sabretooth in an attempt to find Magneto, Wolverine ends up being abducted by Bolivar Trask, who reveals to Logan his new mutant-killing Sentinels. Meanwhile, Professor X continues to act more bizarrely and desperate in his attempt to find Magneto, to the point that he's pushing the team way too hard and even has them team up with the Brotherhood. Cyclops, having enough of this, ends up leaving the team. The rest of the team goes off to confront Magneto's new team, the Acolytes, while Scott is brought back into the action when it's revealed that someone has locked down the mansion and set it to explode. The finale of Season 2, this episode is the real culmination of everything that's been building to this point. Not only do we find out what Mystique's endgame was, but we also get the confrontation between the Scarlet Witch and Magneto. And this episode ends up shaking up the status quo for the rest of the series. Plus, we get another good showing from Cyclops here as he desperately races against the clock in order to save all of the students who were left behind at the mansion. And it leads to one of the biggest wham moments in the series. Season 2 was a major improvement over Season 1 of the show, and its finale really showed just how special this show can be. With 52 episodes to its name, there definitely were a lot of episodes for this show that were contenders for a top 5 list. So let us know down in the comments what your guys' favorite episodes of X-Men Evolution were. But until next time, I've been Tim, and this is Hybrid Top 5.